Hey guys, it's Callous. This is not when this match is supposed to be happening. We're actually going to go back and start from the beginning. This is happening 2 hours early with basically no heads up, so let's just go back to turn one and catch up to where we are now and hopefully get a good live narration going. It's triangles and dice in the lower bracket, triangles on the bottom, dice on the top. You see the turn one focus punch disrupted not only by a body slam but a para. Starmie came in at this point in case there's probably a self-destruct that he was playing around. Ends up just being a wish T-way body slam again. Lax comes back, there's body slam, and that's pretty close to where we are today. Yet another body slam and a full para, should be caught up at any time. And yes, this is where we are in real time. I wish they had given me just the slightest bit of heads up that they were going to play early, which of course they didn't because they're both jerk-offs, but we are now caught up and I'm able to narrate this live as opposed to wait to do it however many hours from now, 2 hours from now. So let's get to it. Triangles has not deviated at all from his lead Jirachi here, and Dice is just going back and forth between his Lax and the Starmie. Not too exciting here. I mean, the Rachi isn't actually doing any damage. The para on the Lax is annoying, but it's not a huge deal, especially if it is ultimately going to self-destruct, which with the lead Lax I would expect it to probably have. And then the para on the Starmie obviously doesn't matter either, being a natural Cure Mon. And Dice actually has two natural Cure Mons. He's going double fat here. He's got the Fat Lax and the Fat Bliss respectively. T-Tar has come in, and Triangles is starting to show more of his team now, which still not clear what it is. We could be looking at some kind of TSS. We could be looking at some kind of mixed offense. Jirachi is, I mean, not utterly unheard of as a lead, but very uncommon as a lead. And it's the kind of thing, some players do this on purpose. They run actually like very standard, predictable teams, but they just mess with the lead just to mess with the opponent. They just like lead something that wouldn't normally be the lead just to kind of throw them off and be like, what the fuck, and mess up their opening lines. But this very well might just be a very standard-ish TSS team from Triangles here. He just, again, opts to lead the Rachi as opposed to like the Tar or the Zapdos just to throw his opponent off. Right now we've got a sub, and he goes Crunch. It looks like we're looking at a Tyrannoboa or something along those lines. We didn't actually see the fourth move, which on the Boa set from back in the day is Thunderbolt. But it could also be like a New Age Boa. It could have something like Flamethrower, Ice Beam, HP Grass. I mean, T-Tar is such a diverse move pool. But if it is Boa, then it would be Thunderbolt last move, which, I mean, it makes sense that he wouldn't have shown it there, right? I mean, there's not really any point of doing that. So now we have a Swampert coming in for Dice. Both guys have shown 4 pokes. Blissey reappears, as the Zapdos does. The Blissey reappears twice, thanks to the stupid visual glitch that we have on Showdown that we all know about. Rachi in, Ice Beam, can't freeze what's already paralyzed. And here's Bliss. So this might be fat on fat, and it doesn't appear like either player has made too much progress. We very well may be in for a game on the longer side here. Like I said, doesn't overly look like either guy is making too much progress here. We do see that it's Calm Mind Bliss from Dice, which, I mean, depending on the moveset, hypothetically, if it's Calm Mind Flamethrower, that could make progress here against the Rachi, but even then it would have to have probably HP Grass to do anything against the Tower. Now, even that is probably negated because it's been paralyzed by Body Slam. So even if it does have HP Grass, Tower would have a million opportunities to fish for para as it subs up and would, of course, force the Blissey out with the threat of the Focus Punch. So I think it's pretty much crisis averted here. And yeah, now we're back to this, but Dice has continued in with it, and Triangles doesn't seem to be afraid. Ice Beam, so we have Bolt Beam, which is the standard set for the Calm Mind Bliss. And we're back to T-Tar at the perfect time, back to T-Tar on a full para. Straight focus punch, though, doesn't go sub, and Dice gets greedy and tries to stay in, which I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing that makes me that says to me is that he must have a Doug, but I guess not. He goes Scarm at this point. That gets immediately crit on focus punch. I don't get it from Dice's end why you would stay in. I mean, if you're gonna stay in there and just like, I mean, I guess he's attacking to disrupt focus punch, but I mean, it would have to be specifically playing around focus punch, because if you attack, who cares if Triangles is just gonna sub? I don't know. It seems greedy to me, but Skarm is going to be met with Mag, and he didn't get spikes down. He went straight Toxic, so bad to worse for Dice here. This seems heavily in Triangle's favor now with the Blissey so low, with the Skarm dead, with 0 layers of spikes established. I'm not finding much of a reason why someone could argue that Dice is at all winning or that Triangles is not winning at this moment. And that's going to be a self-destruct into a protect, which bad to worse. So Dice not only finds himself down 6-4, but the Blissey is also on its deathbed. The Magneton, if it's HP Grass or Toxic, seems like something that Dice doesn't have a great switch into. I just can't find any reason at all to argue that Dice is doing too well in this game. It seems overwhelmingly a one-sided affair for Triangles here. Does get a T-Wave off to allow the Blissey to at least get a soft-boiled, so small upside there for Dice, but he is still so far behind. And T-Tower, of course, is going to come in on the obvious soft-boiled. Why wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, very well might just sub up now. I mean, if those are 404, if those are 101 HP subs, then certainly no special attack unboosted by Blissey pending a crit is going to pop it, so you might as well. And there's a crunch on the switch. Not bad. About a third to Pert. Back at this point to Starmie. Surf comes down now. Sure. Yeah, I mean, last poke in the back, you can always just get there. Last poke Coon, last poke whatever sweeper in the back, DD Tar. You never know. I've seen stranger things, but this game feels heavily favoring Triangles, and I'm not finding much of a reason to think that Dice is going to make a comeback in this one. It's best of 3 for a reason. Dice can certainly win the set, but this game seems pretty one-sided. Well, the CM is going to begin. So Triangle's back to the previous strategy of simply landing a para on it and then forcing it out with something else later. Does get the para with the body slam, a little more pressure, body slam again. There's another Calm Mind boost from Blissey. They both still have a hidden poke, and that's going to be Dice's best bet, whatever that is, whether it's a Coon or a Salamence or just the threat of one of those things. Dice is going to need something in the back that's going to get him out of this, and I mean, it would have to be something real good. Hey, maybe Last Poke Coon does get there if he could set up before Zapdos can come in, or if Triangle's team doesn't have anything with Boom, which, I mean, maybe he doesn't. I don't see anything right now that learns Boom. Maybe he really, truly doesn't have that. Small twinkle of a chance, perhaps, for Dice, but, man, not, I don't know what the odds are that he wins this game, but I can't imagine it happens very often, given the current game state. Focus Punch is disrupted, so that's a good start for Dice. Will Triangles push his luck and go Focus Punch again, or will he just go for the substitute at this point? Pretty quick game, all in all. Triangles is now finally taking a minute to think it through. Not sure what you do here. I think I would sub personally. I don't see a reason not to. The result is basically the same. If you get the full parry, you're in a good position either way. So he agrees. He goes for sub, which I do think is the right call. The full parry does not come, and he's not going to risk the straight focus punch at this point. He switches the T-Tar out of the way. Perhaps he'll try it again down the road. He switches the Rachi in, and now he's got a Wish, which he threatens to potentially pass to the T-Tar. And Calm Mind happening on that turn. That's the third one for Bliss. I mean, if it weren't paralyzed, maybe it could get there, but there's got to be something physical somewhere for Triangles that will be able to force this out without actually being swept by it. Right now, he's just dancing around it and kind of playing a stall game, which, I mean, is fine, but something like Starmie is 0% ever going to be the answer. Rachi comes into Thunderbolt, takes 40. Blissey at full health right now. And there's another Calm Mind from Dice, because why not? So that's the fourth one. Wish pending for Rachi. May or may not survive the Thunderbolt here, but stays in, goes Body Slam. But Dice is going to go Ice Beam instead, which obviously isn't going to get it done here. So that's going to allow the Rachi to eat its own Wish. Going to Wish up again for protection. So it looks like Triangles is actually opting for the stall it out plan rather than trying to actually force it out with something threatening. Well, he takes a risk. He goes to a Flygon here, which is obviously a physical threat, but obviously it would die about 80 times over had it eaten an Ice Beam here, and he's going to immediately pull back. So he doesn't go for sub, so if he has that, he doesn't chance it, so we might be looking at just a non-sub Gone or a CB Gone. I don't know, but if he has sub, I think you almost certainly go for it there. So the way that he played that would tell me, at very least, that he doesn't have substitute on his Flygon. Man, I mean, I've been saying this whole time this game is basically over and that Triangles has it in the bag, but can Dice really find a way to win this game? I'd be shocked if the Blissey just flat out swept him here, but it's almost looking that way. I mean, the whole team, minus the T-Tar, is specially based, right? I mean, I guess the Flygon, but like if it's a defensive Flygon, which is what would make sense to me, given the rest of the team. Yeah, I mean, Triangles might actually need to get some BS to get out of this. Man, I can't believe, I mean, is he really going to get swept from a paralyzed Calm Mind Bliss with what was just a moment ago his full team of 6 still available? That feels like something that never happens and shouldn't happen, but it almost looks like it could happen here. Man, Triangle's really taking a minute now. He's trying to figure out how the F do I deal with this. It seems like just a flaw of Triangle's team. It just seems very weak to Blissey or Lax. He doesn't have Leech Seed. He doesn't have Explosion, which is unusual. He doesn't have any immediate physical presence. Focus Punch doesn't even count because, of course, that can be disrupted. You would think he would have something along those lines. Man, Zapdos is the answer into a +4 Blissey. Wow! And he gets the roar off. He fishes for the desperate full para just to roar it out. Triangles bailed out there. Man, if that really was his best answer at this point, he was fucked by that Bliss, and he catches a huge break with that roar. Man, Dice might have actually come back and swept him, which just seems so absurd to me that he just doesn't have any of the tools. No leech, no immediate physical presence. Nothing. Man, he goes for the desperation roar, and he basically loses the game on the spot if the full power doesn't happen, if an Ice Beam just happens there. But Triangle's ultra bailed there. I can't believe it. Dice has no business winning this game, but Triangle's team is evidently so damn weak to the uncommon but still deadly Calm Mind Bliss. And he is utterly bailed out there by a full para. Gets a roar off that saves his ass, but he was boned. Dice has got to be frustrated. He doesn't say anything, but I mean, he knows how unlucky he just got. That was a terrible full para for him. But he's trying to come back anyway. I mean, Dice has crawled back into this game. He was so far behind. It was 6-3, and it was not looking good. But Dice has really, in this late game, turned it on and made himself a comeback. This would be probably the best comeback I've seen of the entire tournament up to this point, should Dice manage to make it. Flygon comes in to threaten the meta. We still don't know what kind of Flygon it is, but every Flygon on the planet is going to have Earthquake at least, so Dice obviously aware of that. You would think he just goes to Swampert here, and he does. And it eats a Toxic. Even the Swampert is like far from 100% in this situation. I mean, even if it had just come in into an Earthquake, it is only at 57%. It still would have taken quite a bit. Man, this is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, given where the game was. Dice has done a great job to play to his win conditions and get himself back into this. And again, the Calm Mind Bliss, but now, instead of the Para that he evidently didn't want, I guess the Para actually ended up biting him. He gets the status that he does want, the Toxic on the Bliss, which certainly doesn't solve the long-term problem of how do you beat this Pokemon, but what it does do is it gets him at least out of the situation for now. It at least is going to force the Blissey out. So now we're back to this. Meta on the Sleeping Zap, which has shown its full set, and we know that it doesn't have Sleep Talk. And there's a Boom. I'm not sure what the intended target was. Maybe it was at the Zapper. Maybe that was anticipating something specific coming in. But what that ends up trading with is the Starmie. So Dice trying to get as many things out of the way as possible in order to try to sweep with the Calm Mind Bliss, which here she is. So Calm Mind begins. And a pause, but man, Triangles is just, I mean, if he gets down to last Poke Bliss, all you have to do is land a Toxic on it, but even then you might lose because the Flygon just drops to an Ice Beam, and the Cheetah at 9% drops to anything, so man, even if you land a Toxic on it, it might be not a fast enough clock. Yeah, I mean, that Ice Beam just did 53%. Zapdos isn't even going to wake up on time. I mean, he might be forced to make a desperation play here, like Toxic the Bliss, go to Flygon, and get an immediate Earthquake crit. That might be the only way out of this at this point. And I can't believe Dice is making this comeback, but at this point, Dice is highly favored to win this game, which is crazy. I've never seen a team this amount of Calm Mind Bliss weak. Okay, here's the Flygon, so it's either Protect to try to get more Toxic damage, or Rock Slide for a flinch, or Earthquake for a desperation, I need this right now critical hit attempt. Those are the only options for Triangles. He goes back to Tar to get more damage, and it ends up with Tar on Pert. Very interesting that neither one likes it. Dice, very disciplined, realizes how big of a threat the Blissey is, gets rid of the Toxic on the Bliss, which obviously he can't reestablish with the Zapdos now. Maybe Flygon has it. Switches into Surf at this point. He's shown us Protect, Roar, and Surf. Looking like a Mono Pert here, which is interesting. If it's last move Toxic, that means he doesn't have Refresh. It also could be Refresh, but you would think he would have gone for that there, but maybe he goes for the Surf just to be uber safe, just to not get hit with a Crunch or with an HP Grass or something like that. But I don't think this Swampert has Ice Beam, so that makes it really interesting. If, hypothetically, it is last move Refresh, and he goes Rock Slide here, fishing for a flinch. Does Triangles not realize it doesn't have Ice Beam? I don't get why you wouldn't click Earthquake there. I mean, I guess, yeah, like I said, just playing for the flinch, but now I don't know that Earthquake kills at 32%, so you might have to eat another Surf, whereas had you gone Earthquake last turn, and now Earthquake again, you would get him for sure, but he gets a crit, and I think that mattered too, because I think that Dice would have survived there if not for the crit, so I think Triangles should not have Rock Slide on the previous turn, and caught a break. Another element working against him at this point is the clock. 20, 15 seconds for Triangles. 10 seconds. Earthquake. Ice Beam. Dead pending T-Tar outspeeding and critting the Blissey here. T-Tar is faster. There's the crunch crit. There's Ice Beam. Gonna be good enough. Blissey would have died to the sand, but doesn't get the opportunity to do so. I don't know how Dice came back in this game, but this was a disaster for Triangles. Triangles in round one looked like the best player in the tournament. He got utterly robbed by Star Master. Should have won that series for sure. Absolute robbery, but doesn't look so hot in this one. This was not the best game I've ever seen from Triangles. I have never seen a team this calm mind weak. But man, I can't believe Dice won this game. That's got to be the best comeback of the tournament so far, and Triangles has got to be frustrated, more so with the team than how he played, but how are you that vulnerable? How do you have nothing as far as immediate attacking presence, Leech Seed, Explosion? There's so many things that deal with Calm Mind Blissey, but somehow he just didn't have any of them. And man, I can't believe Dice won that game. I really, truly can't. But Triangles has got to be, I mean, he's an emotional guy. He's someone who, when he's feeling it, he's feeling it. And when he's not, he's not. He's got to not have a lot of confidence right now, which kills because he is such a damn good player. He's an all-time ADVer, and he is the only man to ever win CALLOUS Invitational through the winner's bracket. And that impressive 6-0 run that he had back in CALLOUS Invitational 3. But man, that game has got to be demoralizing, and so much of this game is mental. So much of this game is people being on tilt and having their emotions and all that. But the very best players can put their bullshit behind and just focus on the game at hand. Just realize that what happened in the previous game doesn't matter. It's over. You can't change it. And you just have to figure out how to win this game. And here is this game. Here's game 2. Triangles, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Triangles, the undefeated CALLOUS Invitational 3 champion, is one loss in this game or the next from going out 0-2 in this tournament, which just seems absolutely improbable, especially with how good he looked and how well he played in round 1. But this is a brutal tournament. This tournament is so damn hard, and here we are. That is the reality of the situation, as improbable and shocking as it is. That's where we are. If Dice wins this game or a theoretical Game 3, Triangles will be out of this tournament 0-2. Something I never in a million years would have anticipated or bet on. But again, that is the reality that we're in right now. So we have a lead Skarm that became Coon into a T-Tar. Players in the same positions as before. Triangles on the bottom, Dice on the top. Focus Punch got shown from T-Tar, and I mean, yeah, that's just to punish the Skarm should it spike up, which it did not. Not sure if that was a play around immediate mag or a play around a Fire Blast, but I don't get that from Triangles. If you're going to lead Skarm, then you would think that the play is to basically spike into anything other than like Zapdos or something ultra obscure like Raikou. Basically any non-electric type, you just spike, right? I mean, why are we leading Skarm otherwise? You trade the Fire Blast damage for the spike, right? But apparently not. He sees it differently and tries to double back on the Skarm, which is fine after doing some scouting. I like the principle of that, but Dice obviously doesn't allow it and immediately goes to Zapdos here. Sets up Light Screen on Zapdos, which is something I haven't seen in years. When I think Light Screen Zapdos, I remember that BKC had a real, just huge crush on that. Just a huge fascination with that set for, it felt like about a year. Back in like 2016, 17 CALLOUS Invitational 1-2-ish era, I remember BKC used to use a ton of Light Screen Zapdos, but I believe he memorably got crit twice through it. Against Linear in one of those CALLOUS Invitationals. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2. And ultimately ended up abandoning the set, just frustrated, feeling like his Zapdos was always getting crit when he did that. But nevertheless, here we are. So he's established the Light Screen, which, I mean, it's got a lot of promise. It's got a lot of upside in this case. Like, it's going to protect the Skarm from the Rachi here, and he can basically 100% safely set up spikes here, and there just isn't anything triangles can do. Now, granted, we know that he has a spinner. We know there's a doll, so for sure the spikes, even if they come down, which they're gonna, they could be removed. But it doesn't stop him from getting it in the first place. And certainly if it is for example, a toxic Scarm, Clay Doll is not necessarily the be-all, end-all as an answer. Refresh Doll, less and less common these days, though it does still exist. Toxic, I mean, not the end of the world against Clay Doll, but certainly not something that it wants to happen. I don't know, I like the opening for Dice a little bit more. Both players have opted for Scarm Doll, so I mean, ultimately this game should not come down to spikes, unless one of them gets their Scarm/Doll killed when they're not supposed to, and then one of them has a blatant spikes advantage, but if they both play remotely safely with their dolls, then this game ultimately should not be about spikes, and it's looking like we might be in for a long one here. We have two almost certainly stally teams from the looks of it, so I mean, we're only on turn 9. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but it feels to me like there's a decent shot that this one's going to be on the longer side, just based on the teams. So, we haven't actually learned quite yet what kind of doll or what kind of Scarm we're looking at. Does the doll have Refresh? Does the Scarm have Toxic? Those are questions that will definitely be relevant as the game goes on, but we don't know just yet. We do know that the spikes got removed, as is going to be a thing recurring throughout the game without a doubt. And more light screen action here. I would think that there's probably a Doug somewhere for Dice. It just makes all the sense in the world. You can pass to it with the Zapdos, which you can also protect it from Blissey by virtue of the light screen. It goes with Boom Doll. It goes with Scarm, because once Magneton eats your Scarm, you revenge it with Doug. It shores up weaknesses that you might have right now, such as Celebi, such as Heracross. It just makes all the sense in the world. I would strongly think that Dice has a Doug trio somewhere. I don't know if Triangles will or not, but I feel virtually positive that Dice is going to have a Dougie somewhere. Well, here's something that's going to require an immediate response and generate some forward momentum. Here's a DD-Tar, which was briefly behind a screen, but it wore off. Full health Kun going to be the answer. Will it be enough? I don't know. Depends on the sets for both. Obviously, Kun is going to at least have Surf, and Dice is not going to push it here, but this is clearly a bulky Zapdos, as is the case with basically all light screen Zapdos. Takes that Surf really well, 20%. That's got to be damn close to max special defense, just full-on bulk. And reestablishes the light screen. Huh. So assuming that Dice does have a Doug trio, which we haven't seen, but I'm just very strongly assuming that that is the case. Assuming he does have a Doug, let's just take a look here as to what he could realistically pick off. Not the Scarm or the Doll, obviously. Probably not the Kun, unless it's a non-Sleep Talk Kun and an Adamant Doug that comes in at exactly the right time. But Kun is not exactly the Pokemon that Doug is designed to beat. But the Rachi it could maybe get. What do we know about the Rachi? Wish, Thunder, Calm Mind, and I would think Ice Punch probably is the last move. So yeah, the Jirachi there, especially if it is just Ice Punch, which does not one-hit KO Doug, never mind the light screen. The Rachi is vulnerable to the theoretical Doug that I think that Dice is going to have in the back. Other than that, this game is going pretty much the way that I thought that it would go, in that it's slow and it's stally, and neither guy is super advantaged at this time. I think if I had to guess, and it really is too early to guess with two unrevealeds for both guys and with just so much game and so much room to outplay still remaining, but if very early on here I had to venture a guess, I think I would slightly favor Dice in the long term here. I think that the threat of the Doug trio to pick off the Rachi and possibly other things in the back, like a T-Tar or whatever, I think is relevant. and I think that a DD Tar is one of the pokes that you really want to have in this kind of matchup when it goes grindy. It's just a really good cleaner way late in the game. But man, not the way that he's playing this, though. Well, Dice gets bailed out by a crit and a flinch there. He would have lost his Tar, which I'm really surprised. He either doesn't think his Tar is valuable, or he really, really thinks that this whole matchup revolves around killing Claydol and winning the Spikes War. That's the only thing I can think of, that he thinks that it is so valuable to damage the Claydol that he's willing to trade the entire Tar just for some chip on it. I don't agree with the way this is being played at all, but I mean, it's fine after the crit, but like just fishing for it as a whole, I'm not thrilled about. I think the Tar had quite a bit of value, especially being a DD Tar. But I mean, the goal of that must have been to chip down the Claydol, and if so, mission accomplished for Dice. He gets the doll really, really low. It's only at 10%, so if Dice is trying to play the long game, trying to win the Spikes War, he now has a good chance to do that, especially if it's a Drill Peck Scarm on the other side. No longer afraid of the Claydol. Dice is going to try to get Spike Supremacy here. He reveals a Mence that shows itself to be a mixed Mence by revealing Dragon Claw. What are the odds the Coon has Ice Beam here? Yeah, I don't think very high. I agree with the attack there. And Dice rewarded with a crit as well that's going to kill the Coon. That's pretty poor for Triangles. Coon is very good in these matchups. Very good against other TSS teams. Man, I don't love the way Dice has played in a couple of these spots, but by playing aggressively, sometimes you get rewarded. You get that huge crit flinch with the Tar against the doll, and he gets rewarded there with a Dragon Claw crit as well. That's, man, it's not looking great for Triangles, really, truly. I mean, not over by any means, especially with 2 unrevealeds on the back, but 5-5 with Claydol being very, very low for Triangles does not bode well. Triangles here has to think about blowing up, and obviously Dice is aware of that possibility. Trading doll for doll here would be brilliant, but I don't even think Boom kills the other doll. And Triangles would have allowed it had he stayed in, but he goes to the Scarm instead, which does not care at all about the Psychic, almost entirely negated by lefties for how little that did. And it's a Rock Slide doll for Dice. Very interesting. That's to give him a little game, I guess, against like Arrow or Zapdos or whatever. I don't actually hate that, but it doesn't seem that exciting in this specific matchup. Triangles does land a Toxic here after missing on the doll, so I mean, this is clearly a non-refresh doll, so Triangles definitely unlucky there. Dice has had the better end of the RNG here, no doubt. The crit flinch was huge, the crit Dragon Claw mattered, and then that Toxic miss on what is basically guaranteed to not be a refresh doll, now that we've seen Rock Slide from Dice. That matters too. Triangle's definitely unlucky here. The first game, you can't blame on luck. The first game was just a team-building failure for Triangles. Could not deal with the Calm Mind Bliss. That is solely on him. But in this case, I don't know, a little different. In this case, I mean, not that Dice is playing badly, though I don't necessarily agree with the T-Tar Claydol line. But Dice is definitely on the better end of the RNG. Like I said, the crit flinch mattered, the Dragon Claw crit mattered, and then I think to a lesser extent that Toxic miss from Triangles also mattered. Now Triangles does catch a Toxic on Mence here, which, I mean, you know, with how wacky these two could be as builders, I'd be 0% surprised if it randomly had refresh, but if it is anything remotely standard, it should not. It does show Wish, so it's probably missing, presumably, HP Grass here. The set that I would envision that it is, and you never know with these guys, Dragon Claw, Wish, Brick Break, and then either Flamethrower or Fire Blast, which we now see as Fire Blast, is what I would think the set is. Alternatively, maybe it just doesn't have Brick Break, and it's just straight up a special Mence with Wish, so it could be HP Grass over Brick Break, but I think that, or something close to that, is what we're looking at here. Scarm on Scarm. Now Dahl sneaks in for lefties, which is what Triangles has to be doing here. It's going to be a slow grind to lefties that guy up, but that's what you've got to do. And Triangles actually has a Dugtrio in the back. Yeah, you might as well get it in here. All 4 of the living pokes that Dice has revealed give 0 fucks about Dugtrio and Arena Trap. So you might as well get it in there and threaten a Rock Slide. The Dugtrio seems real underwhelming for Triangles. He manages to double and get his doll back in, so he is committed to nursing that bad boy back to health. And I'm now wondering if Dice really does have a Dug. I still think he probably does. But now that he's shown the men's, I'm not as sure. I think he still probably does. Man, Dice is going to blow here. He's going to trade doll for doll. He's going to trade his much healthier doll for the less healthy doll for Triangles. That's really interesting. I wonder if the doll was the intended target, if he was trying to get something else. Interesting. So that trade happens. Both of them going to have to live with however many spikes come down. 1 layer apiece at the time, but they make different choices. Dice wants to reestablish more spikes, whereas Triangles wants to set up his Rachi and fend off the Scarm. And now Triangles gets a crit. Dugtrio dies here as it gets roared in. Steps on a spike and croaks. Leaves us in a 4-3 with Dice in the lead. Reminder, of course, as you saw, that Dice won game 1, and should he win here, he will eliminate Triangles with a shocking 0-2. Here's the Rachi reappearing. This seems like something Dice doesn't have a fantastic switch into. It's not last move Ice Punch, though. It's last move Psychic. So now Dice has a couple of options. Now that he knows Ice Punch is not there, he could go to Mence and click Fire Blast, and Triangles has to show him something in the back that can handle that, because neither Scarm nor Jirachi want to eat a Fire Blast. Alternatively, if Dice does have a Dugtrio, which I'm now thinking he doesn't because I think he would have already gone to it, but if he does have a Dugtrio, you can just go to Dougie here, click EQ, survive the Psychic pending a crit, and then EQ again and Rachi is dead. He opts for Mence, so I guess it's not last poke Dougie for Dice, as I thought that it would be. I was incorrect. What else is new? Story of my life. So here's Mence that we know has Fire Blast. Triangles has to figure out how to respond. I wonder if you wish here. Alternatively, you could eat the Fire Blast and just Psychic here. Man, it's so back and forth this entire series. Now it looks like Triangles is ahead. Without knowing the last for either guy, it's hard to really truly know where we are in this game. I can see an Aerodactyl for either player in the back being very threatening. There's Blast, no crit. And Psychic, sure. Mence down, Triangles lead. And there is Arrow in the back for Dice. It's the only thing other than Dugtrio that really makes sense in my mind. So here is the Aerodactyl in an awkward 50-50. Do you Earthquake here? Do you Rock Slide? I mean, Earthquake, the obvious thing, because it's the only move he's going to have here that would kill Rachi. But if you Earthquake into the Scarm, how bad is it? And does Triangles have the balls to just stay in and call the bluff? I don't think it will be a bluff. I think we're going to see either an Earthquake or a double back to Zap here. Sorry, guys. Couldn't hold that. Had to happen. So it is the Scarm here, and not the double back to Zapdos that I thought Dice would have gone for there, because I think the Scarm switch was almost always going to happen there, and I think that's the reason that you go back to Zap. Now, I mean, I guess the Scarm doesn't really, you don't lose a lot by this happening, because the Scarm doesn't have anything to do. You can't Toxic the Zapdos that's going to come in. Laying more spikes, who cares? Roar, who cares? Yeah, the Scarm doesn't really have any purpose anymore other than walling the Aerodactyl. So Celebi is going to come in twice, thanks to the stupid visual showdown glitch, but we see the final poke Celebi for triangles. Gets a Leech Seed off, which is really annoying. Yeah, I mean, let's see what kind of attacks he has. He could Leech Seed again. He could just go straight HP Grass here, trying to catch the arrow and do neutral damage. He overpredicts and goes Leech Seed, which is fine. Zapdos at some point is still going to have to not stay in and be Leech Seeded indefinitely. It's due to wake up this turn. Another overprediction Leech Seed. Remember, those are costing him 2 PP every time into the pressure poke. Toxic happening there. This is another close late game, and we might be going to a third game, which, I mean, hey, everybody likes game 3s. Aerodactyl coming in on Leech Seed. That is not going to deter it from getting an attack off here. Just kidding, I guess it will. And we end up with Zap on Skarm. The problem is that other than Toxic, which counts for more than nothing, but other than Toxic, the Zapdos can't actually do anything to the Celebi. What he can do, though, is bait in the Celebi and double switch, as he does here. So now he has a non-seeded Aerodactyl in, which could do big damage here. But it's not the right prediction. It is HP Flying or Bug into the Skarm. This should prompt, I would think, a Toxic and a Zapdos switch respectively. You can't let the Aerodactyl take the Toxic, so I would imagine that's what happens here. Well, that's what tries to happen here, but Toxic misses for triangles, unfortunately. Basically obligated to go back to Celebi here, and Dice can just take advantage of that every time and go to the Aerodactyl. Triangles to break out of that cycle would have to basically call him on it, basically have the balls to stay in and Toxic into the Zapdos and try to catch the arrow, which is an amazing play if he gets it, but there's a lot of risk. Man, had he gone for Toxic there, it would have been fantastic. It would have been Toxic into the Skarm, and then you get the Zapdos with Toxic. That would have been a sweet play, but it's just so hard to make. So now we end up with the Celebi again. Leech Seed, Thunderbolt. Basically, Dice trying to get his Aerodactyl in safely on a recover turn, which is probably what we're about to see here. I mean, it certainly feels like an obvious Aerodactyl turn to me. And I think Triangles just has to recover and hope that he gets the prediction right, but he sees it differently. He goes to Skarm on the Aerodactyl turn. Sure, this will enable him to get a Toxic off. Here's the Zap, and this time Toxic will connect. Celebi got to be a little careful, though, about switching in here. It is pretty low, and it's a non-protect Skarm, as we know, so can't even scout here. Gonna go to Celebi anyway. And Dice can't pull the trigger. That would have been such a good Zapdos turn, but he's not able to do it. He goes for the rest, and that's going to enable the recover to get off. This is such a tight late game. It all comes down to how the guys play. It's a pure outplay the other guy kind of late game. It is just a matter of who makes the right decisions. Can Triangle sneak a Toxic off on the arrow? Can Dice get the arrow in at the right times? When he does get the arrow in, can he make the right predictions? Can Triangles make the right predictions and not get shanked by the Aerodactyl, who can threaten any of the pokes on the other side if he makes the right move? It's a damn close one, guys. And man, Giga Drain is the attack, which makes it even more interesting. HP Grass has more HP, or PP rather, and does more damage. Giga Drain only having 8, now only 6, because he does it into the Zapdos. Makes it even more interesting, because we might hit a point later where the Celebi can't actually hit the Aerodactyl in any meaningful way. Now this is good for Triangles. He's going to have a free attack now. Aerodactyl sure as hell isn't switching into Thunder. Just kidding, he sure is. But it's not Thunder, it's Psychic, so Dice with a calculated risk there. Here's the Skarm, thinking there'll be EQ, but it's Rock Slide. Do you go for it again if you're Dice? Probably at this point, right? Nope, back to Zap. And there is the Toxic attempt on the Aerodactyl. I don't know that Dice is playing aggressively enough with his Aerodactyl and just with getting his Aerodactyl in the first place. He does it here. Man, I don't know what the calc is here. If Celebi lives HP flying, does Aerodactyl die to Giga Drain? Triangles doesn't like it, and he switches, and it's another Rock Slide, which it looks like at this point the Skarmory might not live, and that might be an adamant Aerodactyl, by the way, based on the amount of damage this is doing. 35% Rock Slide, or 36% Rock Slide. That feels like too much. So I think it might actually be an adamant arrow that we're looking at here. Wow, and he doesn't go for it, and Skarm stayed in when Toxic. Rock Slide had it connected, would have killed the Skarm there. Dice misses the opportunity to kill the Skarmory. This is a close one. This is a tight one. This whole damn series, man, has been tight. But it's Triangles who has to get out of this, because if Dice loses, whatever, you go to game 3, you get another shot. If Triangles loses, his tournament is over. Here's the Celebi switch in, and Dice not able to get the Aerodactyl in. So it will be an opportunity to get a Leech Seed off, which is going to connect. There's the Wake Up and the Toxic. It's real close. I mean, this is a chess game between two masters. It really is as simple as that. Oh, another Giga Drain into the Zapdos. He's only got 4 more PP, which against the Zapdos is effectively 2. It's so close. Will he go for the Giga Drain again? It would be such a play to do that here. And it would have worked. It would have hit the arrow. But he doesn't have the balls to go for it. Now Dice over-predicting with Earthquake and getting drill-packed. Out of the way he goes because he must. And obviously he knows that Aerodactyl's going to switch. So he goes to Celebi here pretty safely. This is wild. I think Triangles is starting to edge him out at this point. I think Triangles has the advantage here, but still not over. Aerodactyl at any time could just flinch his way out or just click the right move and get a crit or whatever. So Hidden Power Fire is what we're looking at here. Which, I mean, does more than nothing against the arrow. Giga? Nope. Hidden Power Fire for 14%, leaving him at 15%, meaning Aerodactyl could theoretically still come in on another Hidden Power Fire later and survive. He might survive at 1%. Wild. Wild. What a close late game this is. Zapdos on Skarm now. Man, this stupid glitch. Things have been switching in twice all along. Showdown cannot handle long battles, it seems. I might have to just refresh real quick after this game, if there even is a Game 3. Which, by the way, I think we are probably going to a Game 3. I like Triangle's position in this game. Man, what a series this has been. Hidden Power Fire and Rest, sure. Weird position for Dice. He's got to be careful with his Aerodactyl now, but Celebi is on a clock. Here's the switch out to Rachi. And here's the Aerodactyl right on time. Doubles back to Zap. And there's the Skarm. Twice. Oh, the stupid Showdown glitch. This is pretty wild. Here's the arrow on the Rachi again. And there's a Zapdos on the Skarm twice. Again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to refresh right now. That glitch is bugging the crap out of me. We're just going to do that real quick, so hopefully that stops happening. I know it can be disruptive to the game, but I've had enough of this shit. Alright. Aerodactyl in again. On a Wish turn. Interesting. That almost obligates him to Earthquake to force the Rachi out, but at the same time, I mean, if you Earthquake, you're just giving the Skarm a free Wish. That's a poor turn for Dice. Needs the right prediction here, and that ain't it. Earthquake into the Celebi isn't going to do it. Needed the HP flying there, and I think that virtually seals it, but we chug along. Here we go. Man, it's real close. It is real damn close, but I think we're going to a Game 3. Also, in this moment, the Eden won for World Cup of Pokemon Perfect, which gives us the win over China and sends us to the semifinals. Yeah! Go Team USA. Back to the matter at hand. There is the Wish, which Zapdos can't stop, so Triangles with his Rachi has pretty much taken over this late game. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that Dice can do to prevent this Wish from landing. Gonna try to pass it to Skarm. And it will die to Thunderbolt, fine, but now the Rachi can just eat its own Wish, which I'm surprised that he just didn't stay in, eat it to begin with, but I think he wanted to be uber safe and guarantee that his Rachi gets it, just guarantee that he doesn't just die to a critical hit. Here's a Wish again. I think at this point, the only way out of this is for Dice right now to click the correct move and get a crit. Either Earthquake on the Rachi or Hidden Power on the Celebi and get a crit. Pending that, I think Dice loses, and we're going to a game 3. I can't imagine any other way. You just lose to the Rachi at this point if you don't get it right. And he makes the play. Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do in your Dice. You click Earthquake. That was right. He needed to just get there. Didn't get there on the crit. And now I think we're done. The Zapdos will get seeded at some point when the Celebi comes in, which is right now. Zapdos, I mean, Leech Seed does have limited PP at this point because of pressure. In theory, he could just dodge like 3 of them. But that doesn't happen. Leech Seed connecting should all but seal this game. Should we get into a stall fest here? Yeah, Dice is going to concede. Should we get into a stall fest here, Triangles would be able to grind them out pretty easily. And that's going to send us to a game 3. So, what a fucking set this has been. Wild. Close games both times. Man, I wish I had a drink right now, but waiting for game 3. Crazy set. And I think another set was supposed to happen a half hour ago, but I think they're waiting on this set. And then actually, I think 2 sets were supposed to happen. Everybody's waiting. I think it was supposed to be Roro and Shortage at 11:30, which is a half hour ago. And I think it's supposed to be Cowboy Dan and Kurtz at noon, which is now. So everybody waiting. I think I might be live narrating 3 sets in a row, so I'm really going to need a drink. But everybody waiting on the edge of their feet. Edge of their seat, rather. God, edge of their feet. That'd be impressive. Edge of their seat for a third game. I don't blame them if they're taking a break. Kind of want to just run to the kitchen, grab a drink real quick, but I don't want to miss the game. I'm doing it. I'm a risk taker. I'm leaving you guys. Putting the headset down and getting my milk gallon. I will be right back. I got it. And it looks like I'm back just in time because here is Dice and Triangles Game 3. Switch those sides for continuity, and it's going to be Triangles on the bottom and Dice on the top in the third and final game. I don't think you could stay in here if you are Dice unless you live the Fire Punch, explode, and then follow up with Dugtrio and just effectively trade the Fori for the Rachi, which would actually be a good trade. But in any other scenario, advantage Triangles with these openers. You can't possibly eat a Fire Punch just to spike up, right? That doesn't seem like a winning play to me. Well, Triangles is the one thinking about it. Dice has already locked in his move, which, like I said, I assume is just a switch, but nope. Body Slam to be uber safe. And a para. And Dice, yeah, totally content. Fuck your Fire Punch. I'm spiking. So there is layer number 1. That's got to be a good turn. Who cares about the para on the 4? That's got to be a good turn for dice. T-Tar comes in at this point, and it's another body slam. Good prediction for triangles, but doesn't get there on the 60-40. T-Tar not gaining lefties, so it might have lummed away the para anyway had it come, but we don't know. It could also be a Bantar. I think Rachi has to switch out of here either way. I would not feel comfortable with the possibility that even if you fish for para, it just gets rid of it and nails you, or this is just a choice bander and you go body slam again while it earthquakes you. I don't love that, so I think if I'm triangles here, I would switch. Hard to say early on. Obviously don't know what his team is. Of note, this is actually the second time this set that he's led off with Rachi. Is he possibly using the same team again? I mean, probably not, but people recycling teams twice in a best of 3 is far from unheard of. It's something that's happened plenty of times, including in CALLOUS Invitational. So maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it is as simple as that, and it is just the same team that he used in Game 1. It's going to be Dice that switches, actually. And that's Hidden Power Grass into the T-Tar not fighting, because Gengar obviously would have been immune had it been fighting. Really conservative scouting there from Dice. Maybe he's playing around Toxic, I'm not sure. But he gets the Gengar in, and that's going to eat a Hidden Power. So more information here has been revealed. Body Slam, HP Grass, almost certainly Fire Punch somewhere, and immediate Hypnosis connection on the Rachi. Obviously a good turn for Dice. Flat out sleeps him, nothing to lose. So 4 TSS for Dice. Still not clear what it is for triangles with all 5 Mons that aren't Rachi hidden in the back. I mean, unless he's playing around Dugtrio, Rachi might even stay in here. He's going to pull it back and get Focus Punched on the Swampert. Takes it fine, 24%. I think the Dice was hoping that a Blissey or a T-Tar came in there, and indeed the Focus Punch would have done a lot. But that is not what occurs. It is a Swampert switch. And I don't know that Hypno Focus Punch Gar is going to have anything meaningful to hit the Swampert with. And it certainly doesn't seem that way. Triangle's going to play around it anyway, though, because he knows that it's Dice, and Dice is weird and builds weird shit, and could have absolutely anything. Should a Hypno Focus Punch Gar have HP Grass or Giga Drain? Probably not. When Dice is piloting it, could it? Absolutely. So now it's Triangles taking damage and willing to take a potential status effect in exchange for spikes. Fire Punch is damaged but doesn't get the status, which is a 20% chance of a burn. So 1 layer each of spikes. Here's another Fire Punch, still no burn. And Whirlwind out a Doll. Hey, we've seen a couple of these. We've seen these 4 Doll teams. Unheard of a few years ago, but accepted to be viable and decent these days. Here's Pert, and the double back to 4. A lot of double switching from these players, being very conservative, trying to scout the other guy. Yeah, Swampert, other than the fact that it has lefties and not an Endeavor Pert, has shown us nothing. You can Hydro Pump here. I mean, nothing seems to really want to switch in on it from Dice's end, but you risk getting blown up on. He does Hydro Pump, and it's not a boom. We've got spikes. Probably a fair trade until Triangles shows us he's got a spinner. He goes to Gar playing around a Rapid Spin from Dice, and we don't know if he went for that or not because the full para. 4 might not even have Rapid Spin. Claydol's obviously going to, so maybe he's using that free spot to give Fortress another move. It actually learns some interesting things. It learns, so you have Earthquake, you have various hidden powers, you have Zap Cannon, it learns screens, it can learn Toxic. I don't know that 4 has to have Rapid Spin when you've got a Doll on the team. Psychic does connect with a crit here on Skarm. Nevertheless, 2 layers each. Dice outpredicts him on that turn and simply Rapid Spins on the Spike's turn. And he's going to outpredict him again. Tries to land Toxic on Dahl, but lands Toxic on Rachi instead, which is a complete blank. So flat out Spikes advantage for Dice here. 2 layers against 0. And both players have a Gengar to try to protect their Spikes. So Dice looking good in the early stages of Game 3. Unreveals on both sides. Is Triangle's really thinking about staying in here? It's him taking the time. Fire Punch would leave his Scarm so low if it doesn't crit or burn. Yeah, he can't do it. He's out of the way. Third Fire Punch, third time without a burn. Triangle's already, in my view, a little bit behind, so he's got to be grateful that those burns aren't occurring. Gengar takes it okay at 28%. Interesting that Fori would switch in. That must have been specifically to play around Will-O-Wisp, and Dice is correct. A lot of risk, though. Had Fire Punch come down, that'd be a dead Fori. There's Scarm, and yep, we talked about Zap Cannon, and there it is. Like I said, I'm not convinced that this Fortress actually has Rapid Spin, and he's going to connect with Zap Cannon. At least he didn't connect with Gengar, which would have been devastating, but still pretty decent to get the Scarm there for 27% and get the para on it. Dice definitely with the advantage right now, from my perspective. Here's the Rachi switch, and there's Spikes, so 2 layers to 1 now, with Dice having the 2. Rachi, we know, has Fire Punch, and I don't think, it hasn't shown anything else. It's just Fire Punch 3 times. And you know what? I think he might Fire Punch again. Why not? What does Triangles have right now that's shown that it wants to switch into a Fire Punch? The Pert would have to step on 2 layers of Spikes, and it would take a little bit from Fire Punch, and it risks the 20% burn. I mean, granted, doesn't look like Dice has a fantastic switch into Pert, unless it's Last Poke Coon from Dice, which I can definitely see as a possibility. That makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, I would Fire Punch again if I'm Dice. And he does, and Triangles is going to let his Scarm go, so it's going to leave us, of course, with the first knockout right there in a 6-5 situation. Dice in the lead. T-Tar comes in, and that is coming in for the first time. Does not have leftovers, but that doesn't mean much. Could have Lum, could be CB, could have a Pinch Berry. DD no lefties is almost DD Lum, but again, he could have like Double Edge into Pinch Berry or whatever. It's not Coon, it's Last Poke Swampert. A third Rock Resist for Dice in the back. But yeah, I mean, unless this is DD HP Grass, this should thwart the T-Tar pretty effectively here. Triangles is going to have to show why he's the champion here. He's going to have to show how he managed to get that undefeated run through CI3. He is going to have to play and navigate in this game like a true champion to somehow get out of this. Wow. That ain't it. Rock Slide gets met with a crit, serve, and a KO. And there's the last poke for Triangles, which is a Zapdos, but man, this is looking dire for CALLOUS Invitational 3 champion Triangles. I don't want to say anything at this point because both of the other games at various points have looked dire for somebody, and they both ended up being really, really close. So I'm counting nobody out right now, but Triangles is going to have to play immaculately in this late game to come back from this position. Dice looking great to eliminate the CALLOUS Invitational 3 champion 0-2, which would be a shocking result for Triangles, but looking at the game in its current state, and with the Psychic there, how does Triangles possibly come back from this? Rachi asleep. I mean, Zapdos is at full health. And the Swampert against all 6 from Dice and the Spikes disadvantage. I don't want to count Triangles out. He is such a phenomenal player. But this is really looking like the least close of the 3 games. Dice looking to really decisively get him here and continue on with the tour. Rapid Spin removes the spikes the Triangles will never be able to reestablish. Earthquake. Triangles needs a Desperation Wake fucking yesterday. Not going to do it anymore. Goes to Zapdos. Hidden Power. Wow, barely anything. And a boom for the kill. Swampert and Jirachi, the only things remaining for Triangles. Make that only Jirachi. Needs to wake up and catch a miracle right now, and I don't even know what that miracle would be at this point. But he's not even going to wake up. One more Fire Punch with a crit, insult to injury. Dice gonna backhand Triangles in this one. It had been a very close set up to this point. Game 1 and Game 2 both close and tightly contested. This one not close at all. Dice showing Triangles both sides of his hand, and in a shocking result that I had Triangles as one of my top 3 most likely players to win the tournament. I never would have anticipated this, but he is out of here 0-2. Robbed against Starmaster in the opening set. And I'm not sure about this one. Didn't like his team in Game 1. I've never seen such a Combine Bliss weak team. And in Game 3, I don't know what went wrong, but Dice all over him in a not overly close game and a not overly satisfying way. Not that there is a happy way to exit the tournament, but on this one, I think Triangles would like a redo. Well, that was a pretty long set. I feel like I've been narrating a good hour here. This one took its time in real time, and the first 2 games were well worth watching, but this one, not so much. Dice is going to continue on in the tournament in the lower bracket, and CALLOUS Invitational 3 undefeated champion Triangles out with a bitterly disappointing 0-2. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There's a lot more content, many more games still to be played today. I will see you guys in those videos, but I really, really need a drink.